So I'm Maxim Shoshany, and I think we have not heard the word pattern for about 2 hours already. So we need to go back into it. So my presentation is dealing with pattern water use efficiency and shrublands biomass along Mediterranean to arid climatic gradient. So why shrublands along climatic gradient? So first, shrubs are actually more resilient component in the ecosystems. So they provide us information regarding the long-term changes within the context of climate change and desertification. So we better look at them if we want to see the long-term trends. The other thing is that if we mix the environment, if we look both at grasses and shrubs, we have a mixed signal, which is each part of it is actually responding differently to the rainfall. So how do we resolve this problem? We usually look at the average. So that's mixing problem is quite acute in this region. So better if we can separate the signals into the shrublands and the grasslands, I think we can better understand the dynamics. At the end of the summer, we have mainly the shrublands as a photosynthetic active life form. So we don't have the grasses. In our region, where we have actually dry summers, there are some other places where you have rain during the summer. So if you look at the end of the summer, we actually sense, in remote sensing, mainly the shrubs. So we have the remote sensing means into looking only at shrubs and the shrub component, and that helps us to separate the system into the grass component and the shrub component, and this talk will be referring only to the shrub component. There are various types of water use efficiencies, and I think we have seen them quite a lot during this workshop. We have seen this type of water use efficiency. Some people term it as intrinsic water use efficiency. Some other people look at the ecosystem water use efficiency. And a lot of work is done with using rain use efficiency, which is relating to another balance of the system. It's ANPP, relative to the annual precipitation. And we don't actually have any parameter which relates to the pattern, to the relationship between pattern and water use efficiency. But I think we know, all of us, and I think that justifies this conference central theme of patterns, that patterns has some kind of influence on water use efficiencies. So it deserves explicit treatment, which must relate to the mechanisms of the pattern influence on the ecosystem's functioning in general and on the biomass productivity in particular. So the objective of this talk is to establish a model of triad relationship between pattern, water use efficiency, and biomass. And I would take the advice that you have said that the simplest description is always the best if it works. You said it yesterday. You remember? Yeah. Yeah, so that's what we try to do, to simplify the system, not oversimplify, and try to test if it works. So testing it is actually presenting a pattern water use efficiency on one side, and then assessing water relationships, empirical relationship with biomass on the other side. So if we start with a simple example, both patterns has actually the same shrub cover, isn't it? So it's 0.44. Do they both have the same water use efficiency? I think all of you will say no. Because we have here what is called edge effects. On each patch we have the edges which are different. So the amount of edge is different between the two extreme examples that you have here. So let's look at some basic information regarding the changes in the edge, across the edge. If you take the temperature under the shrubs and the temperature in the inter-shrub soil, you can see here okay, so we have here the temperatures during the day of the inter-shrub and then under the shrub. And you can see here that at 9 o'clock in the morning, you have about 20 degrees difference, and then it's reaching even 30, 40 degrees difference between the inter-shrub and the shrubs and the interspace between the shrubs. So it's quite a lot of difference between these two phases. Then if you look at another heat-related issue, you can see that with the height of the shrub, there's a decrease in the temperature. Now, what's the effect of temperature on the productivity or the photosynthesis? So we have another work, quite known. So until a certain degree, we have increase in photosynthesis, and then it drops down with the heating. And if you consider what's the temperatures in our region, and many of the semi-arid regions, I think during the summer, from 9 o'clock in the morning, we are beyond, the soil temperature is beyond 35, 40 degrees easily, isn't it? So we are, for a long time, we are here in this part. And these temperature differences, which are occurring exactly at the edge of the patch, what they are doing actually, they are reducing productivity. They are reducing the photosynthesis at the edge. So that's a phenomenological explanation for the differences which occur at the edge of the patch and why we expect that at the edge we have less productivity than in the center of the patches. There are other explanations as well, but I prefer to look at that. Now, if we take a thermal camera and take a thermal image of this patch, of this shrub, you can see quite easily that here at the edge, the temperatures are higher, very close even to some of the bare rock patches. So it's actually, you can see it, that with the thermal imagery, that the temperatures, the boundary of the patch, are actually higher than inside. So the productivity, as I said, will be different. Okay, so we have to parameterize the edge effect by a very simple equation. There are many patch pattern parameterizations which use the perimeter to the area, total area, but here we use it differently. We use the area of the edge divided by the total area of the patch, including the edge. So we can generalize first that by saying that water use efficiency would be directly related to shrub cover fraction. That's very simple, the amount of rain intercepted by the shrubs. So that's first. And then water use efficiency would be inversely related to the amount of edge areas because we have less productivity in the edge areas. The effect of the edge would be inversely related to the shrub cover fraction. If you look at this here, we have adjacent patches and no bare surfaces, so there is no heating, although there is high edge ratio. So in that case, we'll realize that this relationship, so as the vegetation cover is increasing, the edge effect is decreasing. The effect of the edge would be inversely related to the shrub's height, as we have seen earlier, in the earlier slide. So if we take all of this together, we can come out with a very simple pattern water use efficiency parameterization, where we have the shrub cover, we have the edge ratio, we have the shrub cover effect on the edge ratio, and so we can easily now parameterize the pattern water efficiency, and we have also the height, the shrub height. It's inverse relationships. So, and all these parameters are very relatively easily can be found. The information is accessible on these parameters. So this is the pattern water use efficiency. It is ranging between 0 and 1. The shrublands biomass would be an expression which is relating to the pattern water use efficiency, the intrinsic water use efficiency, multiplied by the mean annual precipitation. So that's a very simple way to look at the productivity. And now we'll concentrate on this, on the effect of pattern water use efficiency. The intrinsic water use efficiency is at that stage will be represented by other parameters like NDVI and by the inclusion of the height of the life form or the height of the shrubs within the pattern water use efficiency parameterization. So how would pattern water use efficiency would change along patch pattern dynamics? So we would like to see what would be the effect of the patch pattern water use efficiency on the along the pattern dynamics. So I think many people had already said that it's very difficult to find full series of patch pattern processes during our times or our research time. And if we find some places where you have certain processes occurring, they are fluctuating within a very limited extent of processes. They are not actually representing the full range of processes from zero cover to full cover. So what can we do? We can do geosimulations. Many people are doing cellular automata simulations to describe the full patch pattern dynamics. And we can also do some kind of reconstruction from aerial photography. And that's what we'll do here. And first, we'll try to verify how the geosimulation is related to the information which is coming relating to the dynamics from both information sources. So that's cellular automata, a very simple cellular automata technique that we have developed. We published it in 2006. And it utilizes an adhesivity parameter, which is actually referring to the contagious growth or the growth adjacent to the boundaries of the existing shrub patches. We looked at 4 adhesivity levels: parameter random at adhesivity 5, random and clumpy, a mixture of random and clumpy for adhesivity of 50, and clumpy at adhesivity of 500, and highly clumpy at adhesivity of 5,000. And I think these 4 typologies are related to root system extent, like Meron and von Hardenberg presented earlier today, or actually the influence of that's part of the edge, the extent of root system is part of the edge effect. The S2 soil effect in von Hardenberg presentations today, you had shown 4 different size, and I think that relates to the autocorrelation relating to the size of the patch or the size of the representation of the edge pattern. We have the soil depth versus infiltration relationships, which Chezi Itzhak had shown us. And we have also the albedo effect from Charney, 1975. So all of them somehow represented by the edge effect. And so we use 4 typologies in our adhesivity, where we look at the random is small amount of edge, and other different levels of clumpy evolution of the edges of the pattern. So let's look at the results from the cellular automata. We created quite a lot of patterns using cellular automata at different adhesivity levels, and this is very well known, very similar to those which are acquired by other techniques. And taking aerial photography for the gradient in Israel from 650 millimeters per year with this in Givati Yarim and Avisur Highland in the 450 millimeters rainfall, and then in the Lehavim site. And then we parameterized the pattern using Shannon-Wiener information index, which is type of entropy, using this equation. And we assessed it mutually for vegetation and soil, not only for vegetation, but the vegetation and soil, because we wanted to know how the relationship between them are changing. And that's what we get for the changes. We have the adhesivity, the random way of evolution, and the clumpy, very highly clumpy evolution in the vegetation pattern, and here in the soil parallel changes in the soil patch pattern. So if we look at the pattern parameterization along the process, it's not a single parameterization, but we have to look at the whole range of changes, a vector of change of the pattern properties in both phases of the vegetation and soil in order to characterize the processes which are occurring there. So, so the question would be, what was the relationship between what we have observed in the aerial photography in relation to this pattern? So that's what we found from the processing of the aerial photography. Again, we have the shrub cover and the Shannon-Wiener for the vegetation and for the soil. And then we take an average here and put it here, and you can see that it fits very well the clumpy way of evolution that we find in cellular automata, and that fits also for the soil modes of change, which is also around the 500 or the clumpy mode of evolution. So what we conclude from that we have somehow a representation of the processes which are actually happening in the field. So now, if we have that, we have a cellular automata, we have a model which is almost continuous data, we can simulate the pattern water use efficiency with the data that we have constructed there. So we can actually calculate all of these parameters and then add normalized height between 0.2 and 0.8, and the edge ratios we have for the random pattern and for the very clumpy pattern here. And for what is happening with the pattern water use efficiency for the moderate clumpy pattern. You can see here that for the low shrubs, so the bata equivalent, the pattern water use efficiency, it's actually increasing very slowly, and then toward the 0.8 or 0.7, they are approaching almost like the full covered, and then it's increasing also with the height for this direction. I'm speeding up because of the time. So we have done it for the different strategies, development strategies regarding adhesivity. And you can compare it, you can compare here the different patterns for different adhesivity levels or strategies, growth strategies. And ecosystems may actually shift from here to here, and I'll speak at the end about that, the effect. It's actually the type of hysteresis or non-linearity in the ecosystems. So we need to validate this idea, to validate the relationship actually between pattern water use efficiency and biomass. So we went to the field earlier, and it's Marcelo Stenberg and myself, and we measured biomass in the field. We actually have taken branches to the lab and measured their separated leaves and woody parts, and then we calculated, according to the geometries, we calculated the total shrub biomass, and we came for different shrubs for the what are the characteristic biomass for each of them, and then from that we have derived allometric models. And now we can use allometric models to actually validate the relationship between pattern water use efficiency and biomass. So first information source was actually using ultralight aircraft, and we have flown above the air here between the Mediterranean and the very arid sites. You can see the different types of patch types that we have presented, the calculation of the edge ratio. As well, we have taken aerial photography of 1 meter resolution for 26 sites along the cross-section here, the transect, the Amatzia and Lehavim. And here in red, you can see the vegetation patches. And so now we have the air photography, we have the edge quantification, then we can actually calculate using allometric measurements. We can from the information that we gather from the air photography plus the height that we gather from the field for these sites, we can actually derive the shrublands biomass estimate. So we have, from the air photography, we have the pattern water use efficiency, we have the biomass from the allometric measurements for the same sites. And now we can actually assess those relationships. Now we have done another step. We have exchanged, instead of using the height, also we wanted to see what are the relationships if we put there the NDVI. And we used Landsat image NDVI measures for these sites. So we have also the NDVI, and we placed it here. And then we found that actually what we have quite good relationship between the pattern water use efficiency multiplied by mean annual precipitation relative to the shrubland biomass estimated from the allometric measurements. So now we can take it further, and that's for the remote sensing perspective. We can actually derive a new model, a new type of model for mapping shrublands biomass from remote sensing, where we can, from unmixing, we can derive this shrub cover. The NDVI is already used here, these parameters, and we have also derived the equation for determining or estimating the edge ratio from the Landsat resolution. So we have started with the air photography resolution, and then now we are working on the Landsat resolution of 30 meters. Using this model, we have derived this map for pattern water use efficiency and shrublands biomass across the climatic gradient of the Judean desert and the Judean mountains to the Negev desert transect. Now let's switch back to the interpretation of nonlinearity or hysteresis in patch pattern dynamics across desert fringe ecosystems. If you look at the characteristic relationship between pattern water use efficiency and vegetation cover fraction, where we have some kind of a disturbance, what is happening, and it's not happening, most of the time it's not happening gradually. I mean, we don't find a slowly decrease in shrub size. Many times it's a dramatic, it's a catastrophic shift from somewhere here to here by overgrazing or by fire or by wood cutting. So many times the system is just shifting down. Now it takes time between the destruction or the disturbance phase and the recovery phase. During that time, during the time, what will happen that we'll have soil erosion, we have changes in the soil depths or in the infiltration and soil depth relationship. We have changes in the root system. New shrubs will emerge with different type of rigor strategies, and they will not climb back along this trajectory. They actually will climb back along a different trajectory, and the difference between these trajectories actually representing type of hysteresis or nonlinearity in the system. So somewhere in conclusion, we have the pattern water use efficiency concept presented based on the role of the edge areas in the ecosystem productivity. Pattern water use efficiency represents the relationship between shrub cover fraction edge ratio, the influence of complementary soil function, and the shrub height on the edge effect. We can also incorporate the soil fragmentation influence in this way. The geosimulation allowed us to investigate different modes of pattern water use efficiency change with varying pattern and their strategies, growth strategies. There's empirical evidence that pattern water use efficiency is highly correlated with shrublands biomass, but this relationship need further assessment or validation. The use of high-resolution thermal imagery together with spectral indices can help us to better understand the edge effects and the effect on productivity. Parameterization of pattern water use efficiency with Landsat images allows to implement it over large regions. In the very near future, we will be able to use LiDAR technologies to actually to monitor or to assess the shrub structuring quite accurately, but we will not be able to use it for the past. That's something, using the model that we have developed here, allow us to use the Landsat images 30 years backwards, so the historical dimension is added by using this model. It's an important description of the productivity of the ecosystems in desert fringe ecosystem within the context of climate change and the desertification. And I would like to thank you for your attention. Okay, so questions, please.
Yes. How did you derive things like edge ratio for patches that are well underneath, well below the pixel size for the Landsat? Obviously, I can understand how you did it with from aerial photos.
Okay, I can explain to you. What we have done, we have 26 sites where we have the aerial photography, where we derive the edge ratios from there. And we correlated it with NDVI. We found that there are quite good relationship between the NDVI and the edge ratio. Because you're right, in the 30 meters resolution, we don't have direct expression of edge ratio.
Ah, okay.
Right.
When you derived your water use efficiency equation or formula, we know that at least from mathematical modeling, we can see that by varying the relative role of the different feedbacks at work. So say you play with the infiltration feedback and the root feedback. You can actually vary how much it is important for the vegetation to be sitting at the center of a patch or not. So how much the center of a patch is suffering, how advantageous or not it is to be being on the edge. So I wonder if this shouldn't be or could not be included because at the moment it doesn't seem to be included in your formulation.
I think it's included in the way that because we have 4 strategies, each strategy is actually developing, representing different relationship between the root systems and the patch size, isn't it? Because if the small shrubs, it's usually a small system or root system with the amount of water they're taking from the surrounding is small. That's the idea. I mean, the general idea is to represent strategies. Each strategy of the 4 strategies is linked somehow differently to root systems, to the relationship between soil depth and infiltration, for the albedo effect, and for the root system effect. So it's not explicitly described in this model, but it is implicitly represented by using the typologies. Okay? That's one issue. The other perspective is if we are looking for remote sensing type of information, we have to use the information which is available from remote sensing. Now, we know that the some relationship, for example, between the shrub height, they have somehow the they represent also relationship between the above ground biomass and the below ground and biomass. It's some consistent relationship, but we don't know what's happening there. Okay, more questions? Yes, John.
A real quick one. You're going back to the temperature effects on CO2 efficiency. You showed some extremely high temperatures where the between 35 and 45 you had maximum CO2 exchange. And how do you have any ideas about how that might relate to the earlier speaker's observation that optimal plant growth in his systems were seen around 18C?
First of all, the data that I have presented regarding temperature effects on photosynthesis are not my data. They're from the literature. But I can refer to this question because I think that's a very, it's a general question. Maybe we, on the round table, we have discussed it because I think many people have relate to the rise of CO2 as a source of increasing water use efficiency. While we sometimes forget that we have less water, when we have climate change or warming, we have less water available. So it's also affected, and I think I've read a few papers where they are assessing both sides of the equation. The photosynthesis effect and the water availability effect, they find that it's actually causing the dropping down of the water use efficiency and not increasing them. So it's a complex issue, isn't it? So. But in terms of the pattern, it's a different story. I think it's a very consistent story. Okay, so I think we already late by 3 minutes. Any more question? So thank you very much, and I'll switch to my other hat as the chair.